Right, today we're gonna kind of go a little geeky on Montrachet Grand Cru. Now, Montrachet is considered the best dry white wine in the entire world. So I think it's good to take a little bit of time to go into it. And I broke it down into 7 different parts that we're gonna geek out into today. So the first thing first is how to say it correctly. Now I'm trying my best because I'm not a native French speaker either. And French is like this really interesting language where they like to drop a lot of letters and then merge a lot of letters. So my best suggestion on how to pronounce this correctly, if you're from Taiwan, it's kind of interesting. We have really cute names for it. It actually sounds like touching crab. So in Taiwan, we call it 摸螃蟹. But the correct way to pronounce it, and the easiest way to remember how to pronounce it, is if you drop both of the T's in the name of this Grand Cru. So I know I personally make this mistake all the time, especially in the US market. You want to say Montrachet, like with the T's, but if you're gonna pronounce it the French way, you just get rid of both T's and you pronounce it Montrachet. So today we're going to talk about Montrachet Grand Cru, and that is how you pronounce it. Now, second, we're going to talk about where is it. So I'm going to flip the camera, because you can't talk about Burgundy without looking at the map. Oh, okay, so hold on. We are doing weird mirror image, so I had to flip it back. There you go. Okay, so this is a map of France, and in France, right over here on the right-hand side is Burgundy. And inside of Burgundy, we have the Côte d'Or right here. And you blow it up, there is the Côte de Nuit in the north and Côte de Bon on the south. And on the southern part of Côte de Bon, which you are going to see the giant map I have on my kitchen island. It is the best freaking map if you ever want to get deep into Burgundy, because it's 2 parts, Côte de Nuit and Côte de Bon. This is Côte de Bon. It has such a huge, clear photo of every single Grand Cru. And also is outlined it by different village by darker circles. So this is actually the Montrachet Grand Cru is straddled between 2 villages. It's straddling between the village of Chisanian Montrachet and Poligny Montrachet. And we're gonna zoom in. The Grand Cru is literally right here. It's listed as 2 different names here. Over here on the left-hand side is called Le Montrachet. The right-hand side is just called Montrachet. So the LE literally means lit, le, essentially. So the one on the left-hand side, which if you're moving the right map correctly, is actually on the southern part of town, is literally nicknamed Le Montrachet. Now, how big is it really? So this 2 plot combined is only about it's only about 8 hectares or 20 acres, and then is divided almost equally between the 2 villages. So we're looking at about 4 hectares per each side of the village. And what does that mean in terms of production? I know it's kind of such a interesting number to just like talk about. Like, okay, what does 8 hectare really mean? It actually means about 3,900, so almost 4,000 cases produced annually. So that is actually very tiny. Hence why it is some of the highest priced wine in the world. And in there, we're looking at 18 different owners, but yet about 26 different producers. How did that come about? Because in Burgundy, you have people who own the land and produce, and you have people who grow the grape, and you have people who produce the wine, and they're not always the same person. So in this case, in between the 8 hectares, we have about 18 owners that owns different parcels of this Grand Cru vineyard, which we're going to go into later. But some of them owns more land than others, and then they will sell out part of their grape to other producers to make and bottle the wines under their own name. So even though there are only 18 owners technically, but there are 26 different producers that make a wine from Montrachet Grand Cru. Now we're gonna go into the next. So that's how big it is. Now number 4. We're going to talk about the 2 sides. So earlier we talked about the Grand Cru Montrachet has Le Montrachet on the left or on the south side, or Montrachet on the right-hand side. So why is there two sides? Or what's the difference between the two sides? Well, the two sides is mostly different because it's divided by the village line. So on the southern side, it belongs to Chassagne and Montrachet, and on the northern side, it belongs to Pauline and Montrachet. But the vineyard is slightly different. When we talk about Burgundy, we're talking about super microclimates and really detailed terroir. Even though this is a tiny piece of land, we're looking at on the Montrachet side in the Pauline, they have more of an east-facing, or they get more eastern sun, where on the Chassagne side, Les Montrachet, has a little more of the southeast facing side sun, which is always considered slightly better. Hence why kind of the untold hierarchy, or the people in Burgundy have always considered the Chassagne side, the Les Montrachet, a little better than Les Montrachet, if that makes sense. Now, let's talk about what makes it so special. I'm going to turn it back to myself now. This is interesting. All right. Hi, I am back. So what makes, this is like a little uneven here. Okay. So what makes Montrachet so special? So I know staring at a map is kind of boring, but stare in my face. Hopefully it's a little better. So the difference is just the perfect exposure. So earlier when we were looking at the map, the Montrachet is, that whole general region is so magical that it is actually itself surrounded by 4 other Grand Cru. On the top of the hill is actually Le Chevalier Montrachet. Underneath it is Bata Montrachet, and Bata literally means bastard. Oh, hi Sheena, by the way. Sheena visited Montrachet with me last year in Burgundy, so we were able to walk right next to the vineyard and really feel kind of how magnificent, how amazing it is. But anyway, so on the south side, or sorry, on the underside, which is actually the east side, earlier when we see on the map, it is Bata Montrachet, which means the bastard. So that's the second Grand Cru that surrounded Montrachet. And we had Bienvenue Bata Montrachet, so welcome the bastard. So apparently they're very friendly to their bastard child. So they even have a Grand Cru named Welcome Bastard Montrachet. And then the tiny, tiny little one that's tucked on the southern end of the vineyard is called the Creole Montrachet. So we actually have 4 other Grand Crus surrounding this Le Montrachet, but Montrachet itself is considered the best Grand Cru because it just has the perfect exposure. What do I mean by that? People have been studying the soil type in Montrachet, what makes it so special for so long. It has just the right amount and the right activeness of limestone. If you go further up the hill on Chevalier, you have a slightly less active limestone, and on the a slightly more active limestone, but on the lower side of the hill, where Bata Montrachet is a slightly less active and a little more clay. So you just have the perfect combination of clay and limestone to make the Montrachet so just perfect, and makes a wine that is very complex, really in depth, just very full of flavor. And interestingly enough, because it's such a small part of land, the price is very high, but the quality, to be 100% honest with you, is more consistent in a Montrachet than you would get in almost any other Grand Cru, to be honest with you. So if you compare like a Montrachet, even though their starting price is at $500, if you can find it, which is unheard of, compared to, let's just say the Chambertin Grand Cru, if you get really lucky, you might be able to find something for $300-400. But there will be more discrepancy and disappointment in the Chambertin Grand Cru than you will get in the Montrachet Grand Cru. So I think that's many of, if you never had the chance to taste it, I know it's such a crazy pricing when it comes to wine, but it is something you will remember for the rest of your life. And so much so that some people will name their dog after it. And I'm calling you out, Philip. So, one should try, this can convert someone into a non-white wine believer. So someone who drank California Cabernet all their life into a full-on white Burgundy lover is the Montrachet's sexiness and their power. So it turned one of my good friend Philip into the Napa King, into naming one of their first dog Monty after Montrachet. So that's how sexy it is. All right, so number 6, we're actually gonna talk about some of the producer. I know, isn't this crazy? Can you imagine? That's why Burgundy is so hard. In a hectare land. There are 26 different producers. How in the world do you even start understanding or buying and or all that? I kind of geeked out a little bit earlier. I went online and I searched for the average pricing of all the Montrachet producer, and I ranked them in order. I know, that's how geeky I am. Happy Monday, everyone. There's nothing else better to do than to geek out about wine. All right, let's kind of talk about, well, before I go into the pricing, because that's the next point, let's talk about the main landowner in Montrachet. So there are 8 hectares, I said earlier, but there are 2 predominant landowners there. One of which is pretty much the Negociant Remosene. They own about 2 hectares, which is a quarter of the land. That's quite considerable. The other one is the landowner that sells to Louis Jardot, I believe. Yes, the Louis Jardot. And they own, let me see the exact, it's about 2 hectares as well. So the biggest landowner is Joseph Drouin, which owns about 2.06 hectares, followed by Remosene that owns about 1.8, and followed by and Joseph Drouin too. I believe they own quite a bit, if I remember correctly. That's correct. So essentially, between Drouin and Remosene, they already took out half of all the vineyard, because each one of them own about 2 hectares. So that's 50% of all the land in Montrachet that's owned by them. Followed by DRC owns about half, like 0.68 hectares. So just imagine how crazy demanding or how crazy small it is. This is gonna get to why I think, or how I come to what my favorite producer is. So let me flip the camera out yet again, and we're gonna look at my dirty dishes. Oh, hey, where we go? There you go. Well, that's not it. There we go. So this is what I did, apparently. Geeking out on a Monday. Ranking all the producers for Le Montrachet by their average pricing across the U.S. according to Wine Searcher, and is the global pricing. Now, to most of you, you're probably not surprised to see DRC and La Hoa on top. So DRC's average pricing is $7,836 per bottle. And Domaine Loire is $4,500, and then it goes all the way down. And even the cheapest one we're looking at starting at $500 a bottle for Le Montrachet. And the funny thing is, I am actually hiding something, because this is news to me too. I've always thought, and anywhere you read, they will talk about DRC makes a Montrachet Grand Cru and it's the most expensive Montrachet. I was wrong. Apparently, I'm going to show you there are 2 producers that makes an even more expensive Montrachet now than DRC. Just one, sorry. It's the Domaine Lafleur. Someone please tell me what the hell happened here. I have not been following Lafleur's pricing for a while. I mean, I know they're quite famous for the wine, all their wines essentially. I mean, ever since the Judgment of Paris, but I have no clue when and how their prices for the Domaine Lafleur now is averaging at $11,000 a bottle. That is unbelievable. I was shocked today. I learned something new. But again, this is a pricing. If you guys are interested, I'll be more than happy to do a screenshot of this and put it in a comment later for you as well. But I thought it's kind of interesting to get a overview on all the different producers that makes this amazing Montrachet Grand Cru wine, and ranked by pricing. Now, going back to what was the next thing I was supposed to talk about? I think I'm supposed to talk about which one is my favorite producer. So I can't say that I have all the Montrachet. I can't even say I have most of the Montrachet, because they're just so expensive and so hard to find. Now, just as a side note, Domaine Lafleur has a 0.08 hectare. 0.08 hectare. So the production there is minuscule. It's tiny. I do believe that might have something to do with why that is so expensive. Compared to that, DRC, even though it's more famous, they had 0.68 hectare, which is about almost 8 times more. Yeah. 8 times more land. So I think there's a supply and demand thing happening here for the Lafleur to be super expensive compared to the DRC. And of course, Lawa is Lawa. They're always going to be super expensive. Now, as far as I think the really good value goes, my personal favorite is actually, let me grab my mouse really quick. Believe it or not, I had this bottle quite a few times. And one of the best value, I think, is right here, middle down the pack, Remosane. Why do I say this is considered one of my favorite? I said earlier that Remosane is one of the biggest landowner in Montrachet. They actually own about 1.83 hectares. So it's almost a quarter of the land. The largest one is Joseph Drouin, which is right here. They also own about 2.06 hectare. So this is the largest landowner, followed by Remosane. But why didn't I recommend Joseph Drouin and I recommend Remosane instead? First of all, Remosane, they do sell out most of their fruits, and I believe they only use the best part of their vineyard to make their own La Montrachet. Joseph Drew and I think Joseph Drouin does an overall bigger production. They use, I think, most of the land that they have. The other thing I think is super important again is to look at the map. So this is the bonus material I want to talk about. So this is an even more zoom in detail map of Le Montrachet, and it is broken down by who owns exactly which part. So over here on the right hand side, this part, so it's closer. You see where the north is pointing. So the northern part of the Montrachet vineyard, the first quarter of it, this is owned by Joseph Drouin. And as we mentioned earlier, that the northern part of it, or the part that's in Poligny Montrachet, has more of an east-facing sun exposure, which is not quite as favorable as the Chassagne and Montrachet side of the Grand Cru that has a southeast-facing sun. And interesting enough, if you look closer, DRC has their land on the southern part, right at the divide. Lafrance and the DRC, they're all on the more expensive owner, and Lafleur is right here. They're all on the southern part. And guess what? This big chunk right here and this part right here by a DRC, these are all owned by the Remosane Negociant. But for the pricing that they're charging, I believe it is one of the best value for the Montrachet wines out there. I know the average pricing, they say, is about $800, but there's many times, and again, that is based on what's listed on average at Wine Searcher. That doesn't mean that's how much the wine is actually being sold for. Realistically, I do believe in the Remosane, depending on the vintage, we can, if we're lucky, on a slightly lesser vintage, can get it closer to the $500 mark, which I think is one of the best value for Montrachet. Anyways, so that is me geeking out on, I think, the best dry white wine vineyard in the world, the Montrachet today. So tomorrow we'll probably do something a little more lighthearted. But thank you very much for watching. I'll put the link to, or I'll do a screenshot of that map, which I think is super helpful. And also kind of the average price listing here in the comment after this is done and uploaded. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good Monday, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.